beautiful ones. My intention with the Shamangelic Healing podcast is to be a platform that explores real-life issues and provides you with valuable insights and practical tools to support you on your journey of healing core wounds and reclaiming your power and manifesting a thriving, impactful life that you absolutely love. You see, it's my dream to inspire millions to shine. So if you find these topics valuable, please take a moment and share the podcast and leave us a rave review. This helps the podcast grow and reach the people that would greatly benefit from these insights. Thank you so much for tuning in and investing in your personal development. I'm right here walking this journey with you. So let's dive into this episode. Greetings and thanks for tuning in to the Shamangelic Healing podcast. I appreciate you. Everybody has been so supportive of the podcast. So thank you so much, loyal listeners. And for those of you that are just tuning in, I have a special offer, a free giveaway, and that's going to be for a 30-minute coaching counseling session call with me. And in order to qualify for that, two things. One, leave us a rave review on the podcast. That's the Shamangelic Healing podcast on iTunes. And if you can screenshot that review, and also if you can pick out your favorite episode, if that's even possible, pick out your favorite episode and do a share on social media, tagging Anahata Ananda, tag me. And, maybe you share that on Instagram story or on Facebook. And if you tag me, if you screenshot that as well, or take a photo of that as well as your review and send that email to support@shamangelichealing.com. And that giveaway is going to end at the end of March 24th. So get those two things to us in order to qualify. And you know what? Heck, I'm going to double it and make it a 1 hour. I just feel so happy. I really just want to express my gratitude for people that are supporting the podcast. So you know what? I've just doubled the stakes. It's going to be a 1 hour coaching counseling call with me. And so give us your rave review and share the podcast, tag me, and I hope that it's you. I hope that you win so that we get a time together to dive into like a personal journey of how I can support your own healing and awakening. So this is just a way for you, loyal listeners and fans, to help us get the word out more so that more people are receiving these amazing conversations. Okay, let's dive into the podcast that we have today. You probably already know my guest. His name is Rob Dial. You might have seen his videos on Facebook. They're really inspirational and they really get to the core things. He also has a top 100 iTunes podcast. It's called The Mindset Mentor. And I'm going to be on his show in a couple weeks, so tune into that as well. He is really living in this space around a positive, amplified mindset, and he runs his own self-development coaching company, and this kind of blends neurology and psychology and, emotional heart health and behavioral therapy and, peak performance strategies to really amplify performance. So check Rob out. I know you're going to love him. He's just an authentic, beautiful soul that really walks the talk, and he's really making a difference out there in the world. And our topic is going to be about how to accelerate the law of attraction. And, I know that some people have challenges. Well, I did my vision board or I have my mantra and things aren't manifesting. And so what Rob and I do is just kind of pick that apart a little bit and show you how to fill in the gaps so that you can accelerate law of attraction with prosperity mindset and really accelerate your manifestation and abundance. I know you're going to love this chat. You're going to come away with lots of pearls. His details will be in the show notes, but of course you can find him on the Mindset Mentor podcast and on robdial.com. So let's go dive into manifestation. Welcome, Rob, to the Shamangelic Healing Podcast. It's so good to have you back in Sedona.
So good to be in Sedona.
I know, right? We've had already some pretty powerful journeys with you here.
I know.
And grateful to have you come and do Shamangelic Breathwork.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And the Shamangelic Healing Journey. And thanks for just being one of those who is willing and ready always to grow and learn and expand and heal and do your work. So today, so glad to have you in the house here, because you are going to share with us today. We're going to have this deep, soulful chat about what's the deal with law of attraction and how do you really leverage it, and what gets in the way of manifesting the things in life that your heart deeply desires.
For sure.
You know, because I hear all the time from clients and people and people on social media of just like, well, I put this on my vision board and what the heck, I haven't manifested it yet.
Yeah.
So let's start to unravel law of attraction and manifestation. And so where does someone start? Like, where do you start with something like that?
So I'll tell you where I started.
Yeah.
First off was it was in 2000, and it's either 2009 or 2010 when I was running a co-office, and I was training people, and I heard about this movie called The Secret.
Yep.
And so I watched it. I was like, this is great. And so I started playing it for them. I love the movie and what it represents, but I think that the main thing that it's holding, that it doesn't teach. So you have the law of attraction, and then I always say after the law of attraction, you have the law of action. Like, you just can't sit there and hope that something's going to come into your life. Yeah. I think I'm a firm believer that God, the universe, whatever it is, wants you to actually go out and get whatever that thing that you're trying to attract is. I'll give you an example. My mom, for instance, I always tell her, you know, she's single, and I say, well, they're not going to come knocking at your door. So if you want to find somebody, you can't sit there and be like, well, I'm just going to sit here and meditate and just believe that they're going to come into my life, but then I'm going to sit at home all day long.
Right.
And I think that that's the perfect example of the way that the law of attraction works, is that you have to think it, you have to believe it, you have to feel it. It has to be a part of you, but then you actually have to go out into the world and have some sort of plan of how it's going to come into your life and trust that it will, versus just expect that the universe is just going to go, you know what, I'm going to bend to you and do exactly what you want.
So what I'm hearing is that it's really a two-part formula.
Yeah.
The first part is definitely envision and not just see it, but I think you said something really important about feeling it.
Right.
And, you know, what I've learned and what I've studied from Joe Dispenza's work and different law of attraction specialists is that the universe will feel your vibrations, and that is a big part of the formula, is to not just put it on a vision board, but to daily have an emotional charge about it, as if it's already manifested.
Yeah.
But the second part, what I'm hearing is you got to take action. You got to put yourself out there. Sure. You've got to put yourself in the spaces where you might attract that person. Be in that vibration, but also be in the experiences and be in the environment that you can find that.
Yeah. Well, so I always tell people, we were talking before, and I always tell people, like, I can go over to what they would call the woo-woo-y side, but then there's also the analytical side of my brain that's like, hold on, but I have to make sense of this whole thing as well. So I like to play in both fields. So the way that I always say is the easiest way I think of it is just GPS, like a GPS in your car. So, you know, I'm at your house right now. I have an Airbnb in Sedona, which I'm pretty sure I could get to, but let's say I don't know how to get to it and I need to put it into my phone and my GPS, right? So I'm at your house, and I want to go to my place in my Airbnb. I'm going to put the address in, and I'm going to follow the address to get me to where I want to go. And so I always say, for people that sit on, like you said, they make a vision board, and then with their vision board, they just put it up there. They put it up in their closet, and they see it every once in a while. They don't see it every single day. And they're like, well, I was supposed to attract this $100,000 into my life, or I was supposed to attract this loving soul into my life that was going to change me, and we were going to be partners forever. But this law of attraction must just be BS, because of the fact that I'm not getting what I put on my vision board. And so I always say with GPS is, first off, you have to have the goal, right? You have to know exactly what it is that you want. So, and it's we used to say when I was training people that if you'll never hit a target that you can't see. And so what most people don't do is they don't get extremely, extremely clear. Like, if you're trying to attract this partner into your life, like, how tall are they going to be? What are they going to look like? What's their personality? Like, you need to be 100% clear on who this person is, because you're going to need to visualize this person. And the clearer you are, the more that you're going to be able to see it. So you need to know the goal. If you want to make $100,000, whatever it is, you need to know what this goal is that you're shooting for. So that's the G part of it. The P is you got to come up with a plan. And so for me, an analytical mind that, deals with business owners and deals with my own business, and I have people that I coach, like there's got to be a plan in some sort of way. Yeah. Okay, if I want to go meet this partner, where am I going? This perfect person that I've crafted, and this is their personality, and this is what they love to do and what I love to do. Where am I going to find them? Because I need to put myself in the place where they also are. I need to come up with an actual plan of exactly how we're going to come in contact. If I want to make $100,000, I've never made $100,000 this year. I need to come up with a plan of exactly how I'm going to do it. So you got to have the G part is the goal. You got to be extremely clear on it. The P part is you got to have the plan of exactly where you're going to go to find this person, or how you're going to get this money, or how you're going to bring this abundance into your life. And the last part is the S, which is you've got to see it. And so the way that I explain it, and I've said see sometimes before, and I've said screen sometimes before, and the way that I see it is if I'm watching a movie of my life and I'm trying to put myself into that. Like, when you see a movie and you're so into it that you forget that you're literally watching Denzel Washington, because he is that person, and you're so involved in it that you can feel the emotions, you can feel what they're feeling, and that's how you've got to have your life. You've got to see and you've got to feel what it would be like to have this person, and exactly what it would. And so if you set your GPS, but you've got to do it every single day. Every day.
And I think the amplifier is the feeling, instead of just seeing, okay, I'm walking on the beach. It's like, walk on the beach in your mind. Right. What does the sand feel like? What does it feel like when you're holding this person's hand? Yeah. What does it feel like when you're cashing that check? What does it feel like when you are manifesting that dream or selling that book? What does it feel like? What do you hear? What do you smell? Mm-hmm. Who's around you? Down to the 100%. Details. Because the brain, what I understand is that the brain doesn't understand whether you are having the experience or imagining the experience. Right. And so really, we're kind of tricking the brain
100%.
Because it has so much other information that gets us off track, all of our fears, doubts, and limitations. But if we're programming it, I like the GPS idea, where we're programming it to say, hey, this is the end destination.
Correct.
It is not a possibility. It is an inevitability. So let me feel what it is like already manifest.
For sure. And I think the best way to go with what you said, so when I really realized this was real, so in 2017, my number one goal was for my girlfriend Lauren and I to go and travel and be in Italy for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I put it up, we want to be there by July 2017. And so I woke up every morning and I visualized it, and I visualized it. And I thought to myself, so what I was visualizing was, I want to be in Rome, because that's where we wanted to have our home base. And I was like, how can I make this more advanced? So I was like, I got an idea. What if I look at the neighbor? So I went on to, this is how deep I got into it. I went on to Facebook and joined Expats in Rome, which is an actual 20,000 people. And I said, this is how old I am. This is how old my girlfriend is. This is what we like to do. We don't really party that much. We like to have great food. We like great wine, all of these things. And all of these people started saying, well, you'd like this neighborhood, this neighborhood. So then I started researching all of the neighborhoods. Found out Trastevere was the neighborhood we would want to be in. So then I researched Trastevere. I went onto Google Maps, dropped myself into it. And on Google Maps, you can basically walk down the street.
Streets. You're basically in Rome.
Every single morning I would walk the streets, and then I would visualize it. And I was like, how can I make this more advanced? And I thought, okay, if I'm going to visualize it, I know for sure the thing that makes me most excited in the morning is going to get a cup of coffee.
Italian coffee too, right?
So I'm gonna visualize myself going to the coffee shop. So then I found the coffee shop, and so I started going to the coffee shop in my mind. I was like, I can go deeper than this. And then so I went onto YouTube and found Italian street sounds and put it on my headphones. And so literally then what I did was I was like, I can make this more advanced, so I can see it, I can hear it. What if instead of opening my eyes, I keep my eyes closed the entire time I drink coffee in the morning? So I'm hearing it, I'm seeing it, I'm feeling myself sitting inside in every sense that I could. I'm tasting it, smelling it, every sense that I could possibly use. I was using, and it got me to the point where it was so real that I was like, Lauren, we got to go. We got to go. So instead of getting there July 2017, we got there June 1st, 2017. We went there a month early because I was like, we're going. It's not happening. Everything worked out perfectly the way that we wanted to.
This is what, the process of what you're doing is you're really telling the brain this is possible, and I'm already experiencing it. Yeah. It is my lifestyle. You're already tasting it, smelling it, hearing it every single day so that it can become an inevitability.
Yeah.
And the brain before that didn't know that it was possible for you to be in Italy for 6 months in June or any time.
Yep.
And so let's talk a little bit about inserting those dreams into the brain that doesn't have that possibility. You know, like before that, it wasn't even a thought.
For sure.
And this is for all of us looking to manifest anything in our life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's travel plans, whether it's abundance or a career shift or impact or family love goals, whatever it is, wherever your heart is deeply connected and passionate, that it will take the invitation, like you said, of action.
Yep.
You know, the dreaming and the visualize it, and also the action. And, you know, part of the action is to put it in the brain every day with as many senses as possible so that you are feeling it. And so let's talk about that process of like inserting a dream into a brain that is like, you can't do that. That's not possible. And like your brain wasn't capable of thinking of that before.
Yeah.
And so what were some of the old programs that were running before that wouldn't even conceive of that? And, you know,
So,
how do you navigate that?
So here's the way that I think is best to explain. What I always tell people is that we all know the only thing that's holding us back is ourselves. Right? And so the reason why my brain would go, well, you can't live in Italy for 6 months is because it's looking at the past. It's looking at all of my past memories. I always tell people that your brain is like cosmic Google. You can ask it anything, it'll find all of the answers to it, everything that it needs. But if you're going, can I live in Italy for 6 months? It's going to search back and go, no, you've never done that before. You know, you have
file not found.
File not found. You know,
error.
And so it's going to search back and go, no, this is impossible. And so the way Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it is that when you're visualizing this over and over and over and over and over again, you're making new neurological pathways. You're basically, because your brain doesn't know the difference between something that's actually happening or something that you're visualizing, is you're creating a memory of something that hasn't even happened yet.
Right.
And so you're, in a sense, tricking your own brain into believing that it's already happened because it just files it away and goes, okay, this is true.
It's possible.
And so the only thing that's would be holding me back from getting to living there for 6 months was my own self holding myself back going, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. But if I wake up every single morning, I mean, by the time March was there, I was like, we got to go. Like I was 90 days in a row of visualizing and seeing myself there, the same thing over and over again. There was no, I can't do it. It's like, let's get the hell out of here because I already am so excited that I'm there. When I open my eyes and I'm not there, there's a part of me that's like, I got to go do it. And so that's where the motivation actually comes from. What would be procrastination, I'm not motivated to go make the phone calls and do whatever I need to do, turns into, let's get the hell out of here. And I need to make more phone calls to get the hell out of here. And so the procrastination turns into motivation to actually go out and do it because I want to be there sooner than later.
And so you're inserting a new file.
Right. Because
most of the programs in the file database of our mind, the hard drive of our mind, are programs that we, possibilities, programs, limitations, experiences, beliefs, that we acquired from childhood and from socialization. So most of those programs are not ours.
Right.
So they most likely don't fit, or are outdated, or plain complete false.
Right.
Or they used to fit. They
Right.
might have fit a version of us at 16 or at 22, but don't necessarily fit us now, or they might fit us now, but they don't fit who we're becoming.
For sure.
And, this was one that I was acknowledging in looking around abundance, is because I had all of these visualizations and I had all of these actions and dreams, and was feeling, smelling, all of those experiences. And what I kept running up against unconsciously was this program around money, around lack.
Yep.
And so I started scanning my database of files to see where the corrupt files were around abundance and money. Yeah. And I went back and there was a particular time I did a regression with a friend of mine and went back to my first job, 12 years old, a paper route. Like that was my first job. And I remember at the time that when I started to make money for the first time, I was looking at the adults in my life as the role models for how to make money. Yeah. My mom at the time was working 2 jobs. So that taught me you have to work double hard And so you have to do double shifts. And so I was learning from her, abundance isn't working smarter, it's working longer and harder.
Right.
And at the time, I was having a lot of physical burnout, and I was like doing that in my business. I was working overtime, and I'm like, wow, I got that file about that from my mom. From my dad, he was a super high-risk entrepreneur that was always making bad business deals, and so was in debt all the time, and always in chaos, and never in control of the money. So, and so there was also this high-risk debt struggle, hustle, try to hit a home run, but it's not really a grounded idea. And so I also got that, modeled from my father. And my brother at the time, who was older than me, he was taking the night shift because you made a few extra bucks per hour.
Right.
And so it caused his mental and physical health to be a challenge. And so I'm like, wow, these were my 3 role models. Hustle, work hard, not smart, take risks, debt happens, and your physical body has to pay the price.
For sure.
And so this was actually a brainwashing experience about how to make money and my thoughts around money. And so how do you shift those programs that from childhood, whether it's around relationships, worthiness, abundance, success, travel, love, how do you shift out of the brainwashing to expand and shine the mind and pivot onto these new possibilities? How do you handle that overwrite?
Yeah. So we spoke about this before we got on the podcast, because we were literally talking about how, and we made up our own word because
why not?
Because we wanted it to be different and in not a low vibration. So the way that I always say it is, every bit of information that comes into your brain is brainwashing you in some sort of way. Yeah. Positive, negative, whatever it is. And what people don't realize, the part of that I didn't even dive into, is in the visualization, in the manifestation, law of attraction, whatever it is that you want to call it, there's a legitimate part of your brain called the reticular activating system, which is the filter. So I always say that, if I put on red glasses, everything that I see in my world is going to have a red tint to it. And people don't realize that the reticular activating system does that. So you have, at this point in time, like if you look at everything in this room, all of this, the sounds of feeling, the clothes you're wearing, the seats, there's 2 trillion bits of information that your brain could be bringing in at one point in time. Like when we're deep in a conversation, I'm not thinking about the way that the seat feels under my butt.
Right.
Because my brain's filtering it out so I can only get certain ones that I need. So it goes from 2 trillion bits of information, only allows 200 bits of information per second. So it filters out almost everything, except for what you tell it to pay attention to. And so that's why every single morning, people are always like, well, the universe brought me this. And here's the thing, I'm not smart enough the universe brought it to me, or if I just finally noticed it, because I decided to actually start studying my reticular activating system. I don't pretend to be smart enough to know. I just know that it works. That's all that matters to me. And so the fact of setting it every single day is the way that I think about it. I was talking about on the car right over here. I love, I'm a musician, playing guitar for 18 years, but I rarely listen to music anymore because I also, when I do listen to music, I pay attention to the type of music I listen to now, which is actually way different. But that's a whole other story. But I was listening to Ram Dass on the way over here because I want to wake up in the morning. The first thing I do when I wake up is I drink, my yerba mate tea, and I listen to Ram Dass because I'm trying to set my mind into the direction that I want it to go. Because if I were to go straight onto Instagram and I see people who have more money than me or have a better body than me, then I could immediately be brainwashed myself into lack, what I don't have. But I want to, as we coined the term, which is brain shine.
Mind shine.
Mind shine, that's what it was. We came up with mind shine because brainwashing has this negative connotation to it if it's something that's really bad. But if you figure, I'm going to wake up every morning and I'm going to mind shine, right?
Shine my mind.
Right?
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to be in control of every bit of information that comes into my mind. And that could be internally, which stuff that I'm thinking, and I need to know what I need. Like you said, the file that needs to come out, and you strip this file of, I'm not enough, I don't like the way that I look, any of those things, to who I'm hanging around with. That's one thing that people usually don't pay much attention to is the external environment of who's around you. Because we've been around people that you could be around in 5 minutes and you feel incredible and you feel motivated. Or you can be around somebody around in 5 minutes, you feel drained.
Right. It depends on which file they're feeding, whether they're feeding the file and supporting the file that is my expanded self, or whether they're feeding the fear of you can't do that, whether they're feeding the file of lack or you're not enough, or there aren't any great guys out there, or that's too hard. Then they're feeding the brainwashing files versus the mind shining, expanding possibility files of, oh, you can do that, brother. You can totally attract that. I can see you on stages. I can see your book. I can see that happening for you. And so they're supporting, nourishing those programs or those files. I really like the morning time to really fortify the internal mindset first thing in the morning, to battle-proof any negativity or any distraction that would feed the old files. And so I too am in that first thing in the morning, like I'm going to breathe, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to bring in the light, I'm going to shine my brain, and I'm also going to feed the programs, shine and expand my mind. I'm going to dream in those possibilities. I call it my quantum manifestation meditation time, where I am in that field of unlimited possibilities. I'm feeling it happening, and I'm not scrolling Instagram looking at somebody else's dreams that may or may not be, as their highlight reel is showing, may not be accurate. And whether it is or whether it isn't, that's their life and not mine. And if I plug into what I'm saying yes to, well, then I'm feeding those files. And to be super discerning, like you said, about the people, the internal dialogue, and music and content and inspiration, especially first thing in the morning. And I heard this before, that part of the brain, kind of like the primal brain, that is fear-based and looking for the danger, is peaked first thing in the morning. It's actually, do you know that cortisol is actually what wakes you up in the morning? So I didn't know this, and I actually had a conversation with somebody who makes these green drinks, and we were talking about how the green drink actually made me feel better in the morning. He's like, well, I designed it so they would lower your cortisol levels, because most people, you're woken up in the morning by cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Like for me, I'm not stressed out ever at all through the entire day. I don't have any anxiety most of the time, but in the morning, I've realized that this is about a year ago. I woke up and I was going to the bathroom. It was right after I woke up, and I was like, oh my God, I got to get to work. I got to do this. I got to do this. And I came from this like place of like, what if I run out of money? And it was like, I knew I didn't have to work at all that day. Like I didn't have to work for the week. Like I could have taken time off, but it immediately went to this, and I was like, why is this a thing? And I started researching and finding out that the most people, the most anxiety that you go through is in the morning. First thing in the morning. It's what wakes you up. To go onto Instagram immediately is just going to take those anxiety levels to a peak number. So it's way past what it should be. But here's the cool thing, and the reason why I've actually started researching what happens with the mind and where's our brainwave states in the morning. So if you look, a child from 0 to 6 years old is the reason why they're so able, they're sponges, because they're in theta almost their entire, and theta is if you go into somewhere and you're in a deep meditation state, or you go somewhere and get hypnosis, they usually take you in a theta state, which is the state where you can basically access the subconscious without the conscious mind coming into it. And then so I got my muse, you put have you seen the muse where you meditate and you put the band around your head? And it shows you alpha, beta, theta, gamma. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to put this in. So the way that I do it in the morning is I take my mala beads, which is 108 beads. And you say the same thing 108 times over and over and over and over and over again. I am blank, and whatever that blank is, we could go even deeper into the phrase I am and why that's so important. And, that's if you look through, the only time that God ever said his name in the Bible is when he said, when I think it was Moses went to the Israelites and he said, who do I tell him sent to me? He says, just tell him I am that I am. That's the only thing he says. And then when you listen to Wayne Dyer, he says, if you say, I am that, comma, I am. So if you look at everything and you say, oh, I am that, like, I am that flower, I am that TV, I am that light, I am. And it's everything that's around you is God. Right. So I am is the phrase that I use, and say it 110 times. Or 108 times. And the reason why I do it in the morning is because you're already in theta state. So I'm trying to override the conscious mind and go directly into the subconscious mind in theta, which is when you start to
hypnotize yourself in a way.
Right? And that's where we're shining the mind.
Right.
Because otherwise it's going into the dark fear state, it's going into worry, it's going into stress mode. And I appreciate that we're actually putting forward some very specific practices to become aware of how your brain works, because now we understand that you can put that vision on the vision board, and you'll still need to take the action of shining and aligning your mind to that GPS, to the feeling of being in Italy, to feeling of being in that relationship, the feeling of abundance or better health if you're dealing with a health issue. And that's really where law of attraction meets action and manifestation becomes inevitable, is first thing in the morning. And I tell this with my coaching clients and with my healing clients that come here to Sedona, is that you're battle-proof your morning. Battle-proof your morning. Like that is where you're creating your day. Otherwise, somebody else is creating your day, somebody else is creating your life, somebody else has power over your time and your dreams. And if you're not really clear, and I love that you said this early, if you're not really clear about what your yes is, well, then somebody else is creating that for you, which may not in any way be in alignment with your soul's mission or your heart's greatest joy.
For sure. I think that if there was one thing that really, I've been on this spiritual journey about 3.5 years now, that really I think was, if I would just take one thing that said that was the most important for me, that I think would change everybody's life, is that whenever I'm around people who are, deeply spiritual, there's one thing that always changes for them, and that's like changes the way that they are, and it's intention. And I think that most people, they wake up and they're reactive, and they react and they put out fires and they react to traffic and they're waking up late. We're talking about being intentional, being proactive in everything that you do in your life. And like even before we started this podcast, we set our intention before the podcast. And most people don't sit and go, well, what do I truly want from today? What do I truly want from my car ride to work? Because you can listen to music, or you can listen to music that you might not even realize is, and they've done research to find that your heart will actually line up and start to go to the beat and change depending on the music that you're listening to. So if I'm listening to, hardcore metal or something like that, I'm probably going to start getting really pissed off when this traffic gets, because I hate traffic anyway.
Right? And or like, I'm nothing without you. I'm like, well, I don't want to sing that.
Yeah. There's so many things that music is. In essence, music is affirmations. Right. That's all that it is. And people don't realize...
For better, for worse.
Correct. Yeah. And so people don't realize they are also programming themselves. And the thing that I think is best that people can take from it, if you're looking at the brainwashing, it's contracting. Like just think of, is everything I'm doing contracting me into fear, worry, anxiety, sadness? Stress. Or is it expanding me into joy, love, abundance, what I actually want in my life? And if you are sitting there and you're listening, you're going, well, what about this song? And you listen to a song and you say, well, do I feel expanded or do I feel contracted? Right. Oh, I feel kind of contracted. Well, I should probably stop listening to this person.
Right, and that's everything. Whether that's a podcast, whether that's a book, whether that's, chatting with a coworker, and whether that's certain friends, certain conversations, what you put in your mind, because this is really food for thought. And we're coming to this realization over and over as we find science bringing us these studies that show, gosh, your thoughts do create your reality. Yeah. And so many ancient wisdom teachers have brought that truth, and now it's being confirmed by science that says, wait a second, when you have a stressful thought, it actually sends a cacophony of chemicals into the body in the stress response that actually creates disease, the stress response in the physical body, which takes hours and hours to move out of the body. And if we're starting our morning in this place of calm, presence, light, possibility, what am I intending? What kind of person do I want to be today? What kind of impact do I want to have? How can I leave other people more whole than I found them? How do I want to make a difference for the people around me? What is something that I can do to love myself and take care of myself today? All of those intentions and just spending a few moments with those in the morning creates a totally different day than when I hop out of bed and I go right to the doing. my day doesn't nearly flow as gracefully, and I miss the opportunities to be intentional with my relationships. I miss the opportunities to be positive, be grateful, than when I set those intentions in the morning.
Yeah.
Like really very intentional this morning with my meditation of just this connection, and set specific words on our altar today, which was journey, that this would be a journey, that there would be wisdom shared. And also, what's the stone right next to you? Because we've said this word already 3 times, 3 or 4 times. I've been paying attention to it. And it's like, yes, that it be joyful.
Yeah.
And we don't realize how powerful we are in what we say, what we do, and especially what we think. And this is where we can take control back of our life. And so what are some of those examples of some programs, and as you have been kind of going through and looking at the programs that have been in, and as you have met them to override, because we can't necessarily delete a file.
Right.
And people ask me all the time, is there like a delete file program? I'm like, there is a file overwrite,
Right.
but there is not delete file.
Yeah.
Because those memories and those experiences and those programs are in there as a reminder and as a lesson, but they're also to bring us wisdom about what not to do or what isn't true.
Yeah.
And so when you have been shown some of these old programs, where have they come from for you? Like what were some that I shared with you about my financial lack program, and where it came from?
I had that one. That one's hard.
You have overwritten that one, brother.
Yeah, that one's hard to get rid of. So it's interesting because like we were talking about it before, where it's like, I realized that I don't like purple popsicles. The reason why I don't like purple popsicles is because my mom doesn't like purple popsicles. And it's just like, not because I've literally, in a sense, brainwashed myself to not like the flavor because I thought maybe the flavor was bad. I don't even know. But it's just, I saw something and I modeled it. And we don't realize, and everybody knows as you get older, you start going, oh my God, I'm exactly like my mother. I'm exactly like my mother. You've modeled everything. You don't consciously try to be that way. And so I think that's a big one for me. Money was a really, really big one for me. That was the biggest one. And so that's when I sit down and I coach business owners, one of the main things we have to go into is their psychology of money, because they don't realize that their business is completely guided by their belief around money. Yeah. I'll give you an example. The thing that I specifically remember, my mom's a realtor, and so she had like 3 jobs when I was a kid because my parents divorced when I was 9 and my father wasn't around. I remember her specifically being stressed out around money. And I remember her doing taxes and how much I still to this day, like I have this anxiety around taxes just because I remember my mom's anxiety and I could feel it as a kid. And so I think that I subconsciously was programmed, didn't even realize it, that if you take a step back, money was causing, or lack of money was causing my mom stress. And something that causes my mom stress is bad. And so I think that subconsciously I thought money was bad. Yeah. Because it caused my mom stress, but I had never really unraveled it. So all I wanted to do was make money when I was younger because I'd never made money. So what happened was at 21, I started in a sales company, made a bunch of money. And what I realized was that first off, before I made money, it was really hard for me to get to that point where I wanted to, like I was making it. But then when I was making it, I had made, my first year I made over $100,000. I was 21 years old. But if I looked at my bank account at 21 years old after that year, I had the exact same amount of money in my bank account as I did at 20 years old. I was like, this is crazy. Why is this? And, so then I started listening to Tony Robbins, and I realized that he had I still remember specifically the moment I was listening to. I was driving from Tampa to Fort Lauderdale. I was listening to Awaken the Giant Within, chapter 4. Yeah. And he says pleasure versus pain, and how everything is attached. You're either going towards pleasure or you're going away from pain. And so I started going through and going, okay, well, where do I attach my pleasure to money? Where do I attach my pain to money? And I started realizing that as much as I wanted to consciously make money, subconsciously there was pain attached to it. And so even when I made it, I got rid of it as quick as I could.
Yeah, spend it.
Because there's this energetic feeling of like, this is wrong, get rid of it. And so I've done all of this unpacking around that. But then another thing that I always tell people is, besides that side around money, was I always say that, if you have 2 children that are sitting there and let's say there's child A and there's child B. In child A, you give them a toy, and they take the toy, and they don't appreciate it. They throw it around. They get done with it. They complain about how it's not the toy. It's not the color. I wanted the red one. This is the blue one. They complain about it. They leave it outside. It's in the dirt. They don't ever take care of it, and they come back inside. They leave it out there in the rain and it gets all muddy, and they don't go pick it up. And then you have child B. You give them the exact same toy, and they it's not the toy they wanted, but they're thankful for it and they appreciate it. And they play with it and they have fun, but then they also share it when another kid comes over. They say, yeah, you can use my toy. They let them play with the toy. And then when they're done, they put it away. And if you could only give a toy to another kid, to either child A or child B, and you get another toy, who would you prefer to give it to? You prefer to give it to child B. Why? Because they appreciate it. They're thankful for it. They share it. They do everything a perfect child would around this toy. Now, if God or the universe has an option of blessing somebody with an abundance of money, do you think they're going to do, adult A or adult B? Adult A that complains every time their paycheck comes in that there's not enough and there's just this lack. They don't share any of it. They complain about it. They
don't spend it wisely.
Spend it all over the place. They don't take care of it. Or the one that sits there and says, like, when I really learned this is when I started getting a lot of payments from, and they were. I had this about 4 years ago. I had this program. It was $87 a month, and every single time that a payment would come through, and I still do it to this day, I get a notification every time a payment comes through my phone, and I will stop what I'm doing, close my eyes, and say thank you. No matter how much it is. It could be a $47 payment, it could be a $2,000 payment, whatever it is. I stop and I say thank you because I think, do I want to be child A in the way the universe is gifting me with this, or do I want to be child B? That shares it, that's appreciative of it, no matter how much it is. And if there's not enough, I'm still appreciative that I at least got something, because there could have been nothing.
Right, and this is an attitude of gratitude. Is that the universe does respond to that vibration of appreciation instead of I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, and so therefore you don't have enough. You'll never have enough. Doesn't matter whether it's 100,000 or 100 million. If I don't have enough, and that's my mantra, and that's my truth, then 100 million or 100 billion will never be enough.
Correct.
And so it's that vibrational belief. And I appreciate the story about your mom. Is that, wow, I associated that money must be bad because it brought her stress.
Right.
So a lot of the beliefs and the programs that are working subconsciously, we might have taken on just through osmosis, not even through a parent saying this is bad, or you shouldn't do this, or you're never going to, you can't be a baseball player, or you can't make money doing that. Not necessarily specifically in direct programming. Correct, but you're just sharing an account of purple popsicles. It wasn't even your experience, and so we can just through osmosis take on a limiting belief. My parents didn't say work hard, do double jobs. I watched everybody doing it, and so I was learning and what you're supposed to do. We're quite receptive and sponge-like in our younger years.
Sure.
And so I hear what you're saying is that, there's a big part of this journey is to stop and pause and look at the brainwashing and the corrupt files and take the action to say, wow, is this the mindset I want to have around love, money, career, what's possible, my health, whatever they are, and to really witness the corruption, the brainwashing, the distortion, perhaps there's lies or just limitations in the files, and that it's our responsibility to proactively overwrite and insert new files of a vibration that is shining and expanding our mind.
For sure.
And that's really the trick in the journey of manifestation, is to acknowledge, okay, I have this brain and it works this way. And I think without science doing its part, we wouldn't know how the brain works. And we'd be like, how does this work for some people and not others? And those of us that are doing a morning intentional practice, like you said, with the people that are kind of on their spiritual journey, every single one is also going to be having morning spiritual practices that plug them in and to consciousness, to unlimited possibilities, the cosmic mind. And we were talking about the stupa And there's one particular image of the Buddha where the corona, the aura around the head, is luminous. And same with the angels, that angel, the halo, is that luminous mind that we're talking about, that isn't brainwashed into I can't, I'm unworthy. It is connected to the truth that I'm unlimited, all is possible, I'm a divine expression of light, God, and unlimited potential. And when we're in that place of belief and knowing, miracles happen. And we think that, oh, that just happens to those lucky people over there, and oh, they were just born that way. And we were talking earlier, like, no, you and I were not born to be this way necessarily, or perhaps we were, and then here comes the programming, and now we're just remembering what's true again. Right. And we're stepping into this possibility of the remembering of who we are. And this is where manifestation gets really juicy. And
for sure.
And what is something that is now in your crosshairs for manifestation? Like, what's a new one for you where you reset your GPS on a new true north?
It's really interesting because it's for me, it's not about acquiring anything anymore. Right. It was always acquiring. Like for me, it was always like, oh, I got to make this amount of money. I got to get this amount of downloads, this amount of followers, and all this stuff. And it's gotten to the point. I think that what I've truly come to realize is that, you know, you were talking about the way you've been programmed, and so there's my true self, and I always see it as like this. My true self goes, you know, from the bottom to the top, it's just a straight line, and I've been programmed and veered off, whether it's programmed consciously or unconsciously by other people. I veered off, and now it's to the path of trying to get back to like my true center of who I am. And I think that for me, it's not about acquiring anything anymore. It's about becoming, of just who I want to become, more than anything else. Because I think that I had to go through the scarcity and through all of the different childhood experiences in order for me to get to a certain level of making money or success, whatever it is, so that I can take a step back and go, okay, now I don't need to worry anymore. Now I can just focus on myself, because this business and all of these things are running exactly the way that I want them to. And now I can just focus on me being more of who I want to be. And so for me, my whole meditation is, my grandfather, who you knew was like the person I look up to more than anybody else, was like the literally, I don't know if I could ever meet like a more kind soul. It's a perfect human, right? And so for me, it's like, what traits do I love about him? And when I meditate in the morning, it's how can I bring those traits into me? Yeah. And so I'm not going, well, I want to make $5 million this year, or I want to get 2 million more followers or X amount of more downloads. It's none of those things. It's all of like, how can I be more kind and more loving and accepting and be exactly like him, so that therefore I can become the person who I want to become. I think over the past 14, 15 years when I've been on this journey, I've become way more than I thought I could become. And now I'm going, damn, I could even become much, much more at this point. Right. And that's what I'm trying to focus on.
There's different types of goals and missions and visions and GPS. And this is what I like to call a way of being goal that is kind, generous, compassionate. And then there's lifestyle goals. I want to have the spaciousness to be present with a conversation and not be stressed about my business, and not have time to be with my sweetheart, or able to be with family and play and enjoy life. And so there's also lifestyle and quality of life goals. There's impact goals that say, hey, I really want to make a difference. I want to make this life really count. And what I've witnessed as people evolve and grow is their performance measures change from material to the etheric, from the grounded manifestation of the physical stuff to essence goals and impact and vibration. And it kind of moves into the upper chakra energy centers of the body, where and we have to go through that process of evolving the root chakra, which is all about survival and abundance and money and, safety, and evolving out of that to be like, okay, I can be loving, I can be joyful, I can be awake, I can be luminous, and I can bring that into everything I touch, everyone I love, and come from that in an inspiring way.
Yeah, and that's literally, I think that's the most fun journey so far.
Right?
So I think that for me, it's like, I always tell people, there's a phrase that says, when you're in the jar, you can't read the label.
Yeah.
So my whole personal development has made me realize, first off, that there's a jar, that this patterns and habits and all of these things that I'm subconsciously, doing in my life. And it takes you outside and makes you look at the label and go, oh, do I want to do this anymore? Does this serve me? Do I want to get rid of this? And so for me, it was like, I've gotten to the point where I've done so much work on myself personally. But then the past couple of years has been spiritual development, and you realize you're in another freaking jar. And so it's like, now I got to get out of this jar to see even more.
It's like this Russian nesting dolls. You're like,
I don't even know what's outside the spiritual jar, but whatever it is going to be scary.
That's the other thing that I put on the altar today was this lotus.
Yeah.
And that's just like the process of awakening and the journey of enlightenment is one petal at a time. And the lotus is called, by the yogis and by the spiritual masters, as the 1,000-petaled lotus, because we move out of one jar and it's one petal of awareness and awakening, and there's 1,000 more.
Yeah.
And to be in the joy of the journey of dissolving all of those and awakening all of those, and another petal, instead of like, oh shit, another petal. It's like, oh, another petal. A new way of seeing myself, a new way of expanding.
Yeah.
So for all of us, we're all in, one of our nested jars, in the process. And so for somebody that is, because what we're doing there is we're shifting the perspective to realize, oh, I'm in a jar, there is limitations, and that I can move out of this. It is just because had this childhood, just because I've, danced with addiction, just because there has been traumas, which we have all experienced at different levels and capacities and frequencies and depths, is that there is the way to navigate out of that. You're not limited by the jar. And so in closing, what would be a pearl of wisdom that you would convey to somebody that is inside one of those jars? Whether that's around money, whether that is around their human potential or relationships or what's possible.
Yeah.
What little pearl of advice would you have for somebody that might be listening or watching that's finding themselves in a jar?
My biggest thing is putting pen to paper. So I think when something's, I'm into thinking and feeling and all of that stuff, but when something is in your head, it can be very abstract. And when it's abstract, you don't know how to work through it. And so I deal with this when I work with, and it happens with everybody, but it tends to happen more with women where they're in their head a lot. And I've done this with my mom, I've done this with my girlfriend, I've done this with people I've coached that are females as well. And I've heard the phrase of, for a lot of women, being in a woman's head is like being at a computer and there's 1,000 tabs open at once on the computer, right? It's like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Right? And so what I always say is, sit down with a pen and paper and just ask yourself questions. And so the way that I figured this out and the way I really started, I knew journaling was something you're supposed to do. It's supposed to be good for you. It's supposed to help you. But I always thought it was like Dear Diary. And I didn't know how to work through it. Right. And so I sat down one day and I had this feeling of like I always have to be running, always have to be moving. This is about 5 years ago. And I just literally sat down. I was on a hammock in the park and I wrote down like 30 questions. And they were just like inside of me, and I was like, what do I want to know the answer to? Why do I always feel like I have to keep running? Why do I feel like I can never be content just like sitting and staying still? Wrote all of them down, and then I just forced myself to answer each one of them individually. Yeah. And then so what most people do is they'll journal, and they don't know they can do it in this way. Then some people will take this and they'll write a question down there and answer it. But I say if you really want to go deep, there's something called the 7 levels of why. Mm-hmm. So you ask yourself why, and you find the answer. And you ask yourself why, and you find the answer. You ask yourself why, and you find the answer. And you get 7 levels deep, and you realize that there's things that I've done this before on a Facebook Live, and people were like, holy crap.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I had no idea that I was reacting this way because of this event that happened with my parents when I was younger. And when you can take those things out and put them down on a piece of paper, it's almost like your mind can go, All right, let's chill out.
And then we start to identify. We're moving something from the subconscious to the conscious of
Right.
like, that's where that came from.
Yep.
That's why I'm reacting that way. That's why I'm so sensitive when I'm around somebody that's angry. That's why I judge this so heavily, is because I was judged for it.
Yep.
And so it sounds like deep inquiry, deep self-inquiry is part of liberating yourself from yet another jar. And this is where we get to shift from identifying, is this experience, is this thought, is this environment feeding and supporting the old brainwashed programs, and how do I feel when I feel this thought, and what is it really about, and why, 7 whys. And when we pivot and when we shift onto the mind shining, the mind expanding thoughts, how does that make me feel, and why? 7 whys there.
For sure.
So if we go, I want to add to that, if we do self-inquiry into what is triggering, we can also do self-inquiry. Why does it feel so good when I do this thing? Why am I really motivated to help other people with their personal development? Why is it meaningful to me?
Well, you can go deeper if you don't just have to go why, so you can actually say who, what, why, when, where, how.
Yes.
So then you start saying, well, why is it impactful for me to do this? It's impactful for me to do this with people in this way. How can I make sure that this happens in the next 6 months?
Right.
What do I need to do? Who do I need to come in contact with and meet to in order to get this business off of the ground? And you can start to ask yourself these questions and go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And you realize that when you're done journaling, you basically have a plan to create the life that you want.
Well, that's the P. That's that in the GPS, that's your plan or your process.
Correct.
Because that tells you what your next steps are. Okay. Take action here, make this phone call, do some research, and this is what moves you towards your dreams. And to get curious about what are the next steps to manifest and allow in, because then you become the driving force of the attraction.
For sure.
And this process becomes the law that you're choosing to live by.
Yep.
Right? Oh, this has been awesome.
I know, it's been fun. I love doing these.
This is juicy. And you and I are riding a lot of the same frequencies here around like human potential, and really a GPS that is about living a joyful, impactful, meaningful, thriving life that is really our fullest potential here and now.
For sure.
And thank you for all the work that you have done to get yourself here. And your podcast is amazing. And we're doing a podcast swap. So if you're listening to this, make sure to go over onto Rob's podcast and then listen to the
Mindset Mentor. You can listen to it.
Yeah. So please tell the audience where they can find you, because you've got such juicy pearls of wisdom, and this is just the beginning.
I've got 730 esporads of a podcast they can listen to.
Brother.
It's called The Mindset Mentor. It comes out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so 3 times a week for 4.5 years now. I've never missed a day.
Wow.
So they have a lot of stuff they can listen to on there. And it's mostly just me. There's a few interviews, but it's mostly just me speaking, 10 to 15, 20-minute podcast episodes. So they can listen to in a short car ride. And then, I'm everywhere online. My biggest following is on Facebook. I put up Facebook videos, and I put up the best compliment I've ever gotten was from a guy named Ron Lynch, who sold like $5 billion in infomercials and stuff. And he said, I was in a mastermind, and he was there, and he said, Rob's basically like the modern day Mr. Rogers. And I was like, I will take that to my grave.
Oh my God.
He goes, because he'll take a subject, and within 3 to 5 minutes of a video, he'll completely shift your mindset of it, or make you see something that you've been completely unaware of in your entire life. And I was like, wow. So that's what I do on Facebook. They can just look up Rob Dial, or, on Instagram, I'm Rob Dial Jr., Rob Dial Jr. I'm everywhere. I'm all over the place. Wherever they want to see me, they can see me.
I want to acknowledge that what it takes, the amount of will and persistence to record and deliver 3 episodes a week for 4.5 years, and that is phenomenal. You're a role model there for me to up my game on consistent content.
See, now you know why last night when I was over here, I was like, I need to find more stillness. Is because I need to be able to listen to get those messages to start making the episodes.
Right. Yeah, we had a beautiful journey, and it's the beginning. And so we'll chat about that on your show.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing and for walking the journey of being an awakening, conscious man, entrepreneur, son, partner, leader, and a beautiful soul.
Thank you.
It's just so wonderful to see this out in the community and being a conscious leader. And in any way I can support your mission and your journey, like, I'm at your service, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation in this chat, please take a moment to leave us a rave review, give us a comment, and let us know what really landed for you. And we really appreciate your time. And go and check out the podcast page so that you can get all Rob's details. And thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate it.